we went from Santa Maria to Tulare, and I guess we spent 6 months in Tulare. This must have been 42 or 43, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then off to Gila, Arizona. Both my parents, mom and dad, were there, but apparently, and my dad actually was shipped off to Bismark, North Dakota, because he was not a U.S. citizen. My mom was born in Barstow, California. So, but then later on, I don't know when, but she contracted tuberculosis. In fact, quite a few Japanese there in Gila had tuberculosis, TB, caught TB. And so, she was, all I know that she was sent to Santa Barbara Hospital in County Hospital. Because we're from Santa Maria, California, so Santa Barbara County. So she was at the county hospital there. So all I remember her is that actually I met my mom, or saw my mom, first time when we came back from Arizona, and all I know, my dad had various jobs apparently at the camps. I know the barracks we lived at was called 63-10D. That was a barrack number that we were assigned to when we lived there. So I have very little memory of that. The only memories I have are like, I know there was an outdoor theater and it was cold. I heard coyotes howling in the background. And I remember as a kid with another friend of mine named Ron Suzuki, we used to, I don't know, once or twice, I don't know how often, but apparently there was a little bus, military bus, that went around the barracks, and this was a Caucasian guy, an American guy. He was able to, he allowed us on and ride around, and then he dropped us back, So I have no idea how many times we did that, but I remember taking bus rides with him, just the two little kids, little tykes. And the only thing I can remember seeing, the barbed wire fences and all that, and the towers where there were guards there. And but I have very actually little memories of actually the camp itself. I've seen pictures of all that, but and then of course I had two sisters and a brother. Even though we were born in the States and were, quote, Americans, the Japanese were defeated by the Americans, so they were inferior. So they didn't want to associate anything with Japanese. That's why I didn't want to speak the language or learn the language, only because of that factor, And it's unfortunate, but that was true. Yeah. But that was the prevailing thought. A lot of the younger Japanese then just didn't want anything to do with anything Japanese. They just didn't, And then I think that's one reason why the Japanese are in schools they did really well, because they had to show that they were superior, or were on equal par, if not better, at that time. And they've never spoken much of that. My brother is 4 years older than me, so he remembers a lot more. But he didn't speak too much, actually. And my sister, they rarely talked about the camp experiences. Yeah. My dad was in Bismark, North Dakota, and I don't know when he came back. My mom came down with TB, so she had to be hospitalized and was sent to Santa Barbara County, from Santa Maria, so Santa Barbara County Hospital. So basically, my Uncle Sam, raised the kids. There were three, two sisters and a brother and me. So there were four of us. So actually, Uncle Sam really took care of us, basically. And then when we came back from the camps, he actually helped raise us, because my dad became a gardener. I mean, he did try to get back and work as a truck driver, but he became a gardener, basically, because the farming was a big sham back then. When we came back, I mean, all that was totally gone. one other thing that I can say, my Uncle Sam, who really raised our family, he actually, he was part of the U.S. Army as an interpreter, because he spoke fluent Japanese too, besides English, obviously. So he served, in the intelligence for, deciphering all Japanese messages and all that. So although he never spoke much about that at all, he didn't. I know they recruited quite a few. Yeah, it must have been. I guess it was but I know that he served, in the military, and he would decipher all the Japanese codes and all that bit. They were born in the States, but they had moved to Japan as basically infants. So my mom actually never spoke English. Okay, well, she was born in the States. She didn't speak English. And Sam obviously, spoke fluent Japanese, because apparently he was raised basically in Japan and the States, both. So he was fluent in both languages, luckily. Whenever I needed anything, I would go through my brother or my sisters, who would speak to, and I can speak just real basic stuff, I just didn't want to, being a little kid, I just didn't want to hassle with all that stuff, The well-known Minami families, they're from Guadalupe, actually, which is 10 miles west of Santa Maria. But they own the big ranches, the big farms there. Minami family. He's a very wealthy man. He really did well. But he was a very generous man. So he was the one that originally hired my dad, before the camp thing and all that. So we used to work for the Minami family, basically. But after the war, it was obviously we had to start all over from scratch, basically. And my dad became a gardener. The only conversations I would have with probably my brother, who was 4 years older than me. But then again, he was just I guess he was 8 or 9. He actually had a rougher time coming back, because when I started grammar school, I would start like kindergarten in first grade, whereas he was in 4th grade. It was a little different. Kids would say things to him, but kids at that age knew what they were saying. Kids that were in my kindergarten or first grade, they were only parroting what their parents had told them, And luckily for me, I was the smartest kid in the class, and I was really good at sports. So right away, I never had any problems. All through my education, because I was, really smart and good athletically and everything. All the way through, And Santa Maria, actually, there really was a Santa Maria. There was a Japanese community there, but most of them were hung out in Guadalupe and with the farmers, not so much in Santa Maria. So we were sort of the oddball family. My dad being a gardener, there was only a couple of other gardeners. Most of them went back in the farming community some way. So that's why I didn't associate with the Japanese Americans in Santa Maria, actually. See, he had a lot of bitterness growing up, let's put it that way, because probably all the name, I'm sure it affected him psychologically, just because, he was called dirty names and all that, just growing up. I'm sure it bypassed it as he grew older. It was okay, but he's always had a little chip on his shoulder, let's put it that way, Whereas I never had that, luckily. No, I'm sure there were others, but they were in their own little community in the farmers, So they pretty much hung out. I didn't know, and unfortunately I didn't know that many. There was only 1 or 2 other families that I knew that were not farmers, but all the rest were. I was not really affiliated with that Japanese community, you might say, growing up, And then I accepted the, quote, the American way, basically,